my freedom of speech was violated. I had to spend 4 hours in in-school suspension just sitting there doing nothing, no curriculum.
Alright, so here we have this kid, Dakota, I think his name is, but he was in class one day chilling, minding his own business. Conversation was about Germany and something, and the topic of homosexuality came out, and his teacher had an issue with something Dakota said, not even to the class, but to a friend who said something to him, and he responded that he simply didn't affirm the lifestyle, life choices, whatever you want to call it, of the homosexual, and the teacher didn't like what he had to say, so the teacher abused his authority and power and gave him an in-school suspension. So here you have it again, the gay mafia bullying someone because they won't affirm their lifestyle. Now, if you see what happened with the DOJ, they just put out a little memo, email, what have you, to tell their workers that if a person comes out to you, that you're supposed to give a, you're supposed to respond to them, and they tell you how to respond. So you don't even have the right to remain silent anymore. That's how crazy this stuff is getting. All these kumbaya, great friendly people, like, it doesn't bother you, doesn't affect you, doesn't matter. How does it hurt you? Well, all these government employees who might oppose that lifestyle, it does affect them. They have to. They can't even just keep their head down and be quiet and say nothing. They don't even have that ability anymore. Now they have to respond. They have to care that you like, the same sex, which is completely inappropriate in a workplace, period. Anyways, why is that even a conversation? Why are you telling me this? That's not a concern that I share. But as you know, it's the whole utopia nonsense, and again, this teacher abused his authority. He took what the little boy said and felt some type of way about it. What does that say, though, when it's something simple like this and he can abuse his authority? What happens in the real world when an employer, an employee, a police officer, judge, what have you, when they know you're openly not about that life, you want to affirm it, when they use their authority to punish you or somehow screw with your situation? I mean, that's simply it. What happens when they start discriminating against you simply because you don't agree with them? And I've said it before, it's not about tolerance or any of that nonsense. It's about total mind control. They want you to see the world through their rainbow tinted glasses, and if you don't, you are the enemy. But let's check out the clips to see what happened with this young man who stood his ground, so to speak, but his freedom of speech was violated because he did.
Homosexuality wrong.
And today, the teen's mom and an attorney, they met with school officials to dispute the punishment. First tonight on Fox 4 News at 6, Laurie Barrett joins us with the story. Laurie.
Well, the student and his mom say that school officials were afraid that something that he said might offend someone. They say that what happened went beyond political correctness and infringed on his First Amendment rights.
Learned a couple of new football plays.
14-year-old Dakota Airy spent most of his day Tuesday serving in-school suspension. The punishment followed a discussion in his German class at Fort Worth's Western Hills High School.
We were talking about religions in Germany, and I said that I was a Christian. I think being homosexual is wrong.
Dakota says the topic of homosexuality has come up in that class before.
It wasn't directed to anyone except my friend who was sitting behind me.
So how did it become so public?
I guess he heard me and then started yelling about it, and he said he was going to give me an infraction and send me to the office.
An assistant principal called Holly Pope at work, letting her know Dakota was in trouble.
At first, I was kind of in disbelief because my son is an honor student. He's in football and he gets great grades, and I don't ever have any problems out of him.
After hearing Dakota's explanation, the assistant principal reduced the original suspension from 2 days to 1. Pope was not satisfied with that solution.
He was stating an opinion, and he has a right to do that, and they punished him for it.
Tuesday evening, a mutual friend put Pope together with Matt Krause, a First Amendment attorney.
Students don't lose their First Amendment rights just because they go into schoolhouse stores.
Krause joined Dakota and his mom at a Wednesday morning meeting with the principal. They wanted any blemish off Dakota's record and reassurance there would be no retaliation.
The principal and assistant principal, I thought, handled the meeting very well.
District spokesman Clint Bond released a statement saying, as a matter of course, Fort Worth ISD does not comment on specific employee or student-related issues. Suffice it to say that we are following district policy in our review of the circumstances, and any resolution will likewise be in accordance with district policy.
That I know of right now, yes.
If Dakota continues taking German, he'll have the same teacher.
My cross ring here.
His mom is relying on faith that things will work out.
I want to believe and trust that the school is going to make the right decision, and whatever repercussions need to happen or punishment or whatever, that's going to be something that they need to handle.
From the Fort Worth ISD statement, it's kind of tough to tell whether the teacher will face any discipline, but according to the spokesman Clint Bond, officials are still talking to all the people who were involved, trying to determine exactly
Dakota
what happened.
And I'm a freshman in high school. I play football, tight end, outside linebacker. I just like to hang out with friends, throw the ball around. I like to play video games, a lot of Call of Duty, Halo fan, just that kind of stuff. Me and my friends have had that teacher since around 7th grade. I just walked into class trying to get through the day, and I saw a picture on the wall that showed two men kissing. And I asked him what it was, and he said it was out of a magazine, that this is one of the things going on in the world. And then I said to him that it's not appropriate to be in school.
Dakota came to me one day and he said, "Mom, you're not going to believe this. Teacher in the classroom put a picture up today of two men kissing." And I was kind of taken back, and I said, "Why would he put a picture like that in your classroom?"
That graphic, I didn't think he would put up something like that. Like maybe something like two guys holding hands or something, but they were full-blown making out.
I don't believe that kind of picture should be okay to put up in any classroom, but it would be just like if you put a Cosmopolitan magazine up on the wall. You don't want to put a picture of men and women kissing either. It's just, especially in a high school classroom.
It was about a week later, I walked into class and we started talking about different religions. A boy in the back had started asking about the religious views on homosexuality in Germany, and I said to my friend, I turned around and said to my friend that I'm a Christian and I think that being homosexual is wrong. I didn't want him to hear me. I was just talking to my friend, but he had heard me and started yelling and said, "That's wrong. You shouldn't have said that. You could have offended many people." He took me outside and he said, "I'm going to write you up and send you to the office with an infraction for saying that, because you're not allowed to say that in school." So I told him myself, I said, "I'll take it. You don't have to write me a pass. I'll take it myself, and I'll tell the principal exactly what happened."
They said, "We have your son in the office. He's been brought into our office because he said something in class out of context." And I was thinking, that's unusual for him. I stopped talking with her and I said, "Is Dakota there with you?" And she said yes. And I said, "I'd like to speak with him."
And she asked if it was the same teacher with the picture up on the wall. And I told her, and she was infuriated.
And I said, "Okay, let me talk back with the vice principal again." He gives her back the phone, and I said, "I think there's bigger issues in this classroom than what you're aware of, and I don't feel my son should be punished for anything right now until you guys investigate what's happening in that classroom." A few hours later, I texted Dakota, not an hour, probably about an hour later, and I said, "I need you to call me when you go to lunch." And he said, "I can't go to lunch because I'm in school suspension for the remainder of the day."
I had to spend 4 hours in school suspension, just sitting there doing nothing, no curriculum, nothing. I wasted 4 hours that I could have been learning in school. My freedom of speech was violated. That's why we got the lawyer, because it's just wrong that I get suspended for one of my amendments.
And it was very surprising to me how extremely ugly people can be. And, saying things about my son that just brought me to tears.
I've been called like the Hitler of our time. People have said they want to commit suicide because I have breath in my body.
Dakota is not a bigot. He is not someone who hates gay people, and he's not a hater in any way. And for all these organizations and companies that promote, gay marriage and so on and so forth, for them to come back at him as a child is just ridiculous. I'm extremely proud of the fact that he did stand up for himself, and I think a lot of that comes from parents need to, empower their children that they're going to back them up. A lot of times everything is so erased and pushed under the rug, and the kids don't feel like they have a voice because they're not adults.
There are people out there that go through the same problem that I did, with persecution in their faith and being trapped with whatever they say. And there are many options out there. For one, I went to Liberty Counsel for a lawyer because my First Amendment right was violated.
When school started, it's about math, it's about reading, it's about art. Homosexuality, I don't feel like is something that needs to be taught in school. Why is it that homosexuality, the one thing that there's so much pushback, why are they pushing so hard to get that in front of our kids? You know, the kids don't lose their rights just because they're in a school building. They still have First Amendment rights to free speech, and they still have the right to state their opinion based by their faith. And we as their parents need to be there to back them up.
You need to speak up for what you believe in. I mean, what's the point of believing in something if you don't want people to know it?
Dakota Airy fought back and won. So how can you help those like Dakota and his mom who have stood up for all our rights to speak freely? Well, thank a hero. Show them how much you care by logging on.
The principal and requested a 3-day suspension. The principal actually suspended Airy until Liberty Counsel got involved. That this teacher had the audacity to claim that Airy's statement that he's a Christian and therefore believes, as Scripture is very clear, that homosexual behavior is wrong, is sinful. This bully, this teacher, then sends him, punishes him for stating what every major world religion and thousands of years of history have held to be true, that homosexual behavior, among a litany of sexual behaviors, happens to be sexual sin. So here we have the really turning logic and reason on its head that we see, and allegedly I've read a number of homosexual activist websites that are claiming that this man, Franks, I believe is his name, this teacher, is himself a self-identified homosexual. So he is pushing this agenda in the classroom, has posted pictures of men kissing on the board. On the
world wall, before this event, he actually posted a picture of two men kissing on this world wall and told the students that homosexuality is becoming more prevalent in the world and that they just need to accept it. This was before this situation arose in the journal. Before this event, he actually posted a picture of two men kissing on this world wall and told the students that homosexuality is becoming more prevalent in the world and that they just need to accept it. This was before this situation arose in the German class, and apparently what happened in the German class is the topic of religious beliefs in Germany came up, and during the discussion one student asked what Germans thought about homosexuality in relation to religion, and another student wanted to have certain things translated into German, and that's when Dakota simply turned to a friend, his classmate, and said that he felt that it was wrong based on his religious beliefs. And then the teacher said that this is possible bullying and that this kind of statement should never be said in the public school. He gave him an in-school suspension, which was 4 hours, and he wanted to do it for an extended period of time. Liberty Counsel immediately got involved, wrote a demand letter to the school officials, and then one of our attorneys, Matt Krause, who's right there in the Dallas area, met with school officials and demanded that this be reversed and that any kind of academic dismissal or violation or suspension or wrongdoing be removed from this student's file. Now, in the meantime, they placed this teacher, Mr. Franks, on administrative leave pending an investigation. They have since now allowed him to return to the classroom, giving him the option of either returning to teach at the same school or even transferring him to another school. So that's the situation as it stands right now. But what was happening, as you're saying, is that the teacher was actually bullying students, forcing them to accept his own view on homosexuality as opposed to just simply sticking with the subject matter of German. And instead, he was the bullying person on this case, not Dakota Airy.
Well, of course he was. And that's, the homosexual activist groups like GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, have been pushing as a Trojan horse this bullying, anti-bullying agenda into public schools around the country, basically saying
bullying person on this case, not Dakota Airy.
Well, of course he was. And that's, the homosexual activist groups like GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network, have been pushing as a Trojan horse this bullying, anti-bullying agenda into public schools around the country, basically saying any verbal representation of the Judeo-Christian view of sexual behavior as it relates to homosexuality is in itself bullying. It's really a covert attempt to silence any opposition to the homosexual lifestyle. And Christopher Franks here has grossly violated, in the school district's First Amendment, grossly violated Dakota Ari's First Amendment rights here. Matt Krause, our Liberty Counsel attorney there in Dallas, has done a wonderful job with this case. He went in and educated the school district. Let's hope now that they have suspended Mr. Franks, that they took that opportunity to educate him, and that when he goes back into the classroom now, he will cease and desist in his bullying activity.
That's what I think the ultimate hope is here, is that because of the fact that he was called to the carpet, this thing took on a national media attention, and he was administratively removed from the classroom with pay. He was removed and placed on administrative leave, taken out of the classroom for nearly a week. That message will ultimately be loud and clear, that he can't do this again. Now, the school has come up with their preliminary investigation. They have found that Dakota Airy violated no policy of the school. They also said that there was no violation of any First Amendment rights here. This question wasn't so much a First Amendment rights issue as it was the fact that this was just inappropriate for the school, whether it's First Amendment or not, to punish someone. And clearly it was First Amendment related issues, because he is speaking to a fellow student. He's not speaking out loud in class. It just so happens that the teacher overheard what he said to a fellow student, and for him to be even punished even for the short period of time, even though Mr. Franks wanted to do it for a longer period of time, that was wrong. And of course, right now the school has reversed its position. They took away the in-school suspension. That has been removed from anything in the file. But we want to make sure that this never happens again to Dakota or any other student in that school under the teaching of Mr. Franks or any other teacher.
Well, and you have to wonder, if this teacher happened, or Dakota's mother happened to know about Liberty Counsel, contacted Liberty Counsel, and we were able to get involved and take care of this matter. But you have to wonder, this is just one example. How many times does this happen across the nation that it goes unnoticed or unchallenged? So hopefully this case will be used publicly, and as you mentioned, it garnered a great deal of national attention. Hopefully school districts across the country will see that pro-homosexual teachers and students do not have a right to bully students with traditional values relative to sexual morality.